All right, 6:01, I'll call the meeting to order. Consent agenda, previous minutes from March 11th. Entertain a motion to, and March 31st, entertain a motion to accept those if there's no questions about it.
I make a motion.
Deb made a motion. Josh?
Aye.
Rachel? Sir?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay, under policy, we'll have the first read for collection of delinquent meal charges. Any questions on that? No concerns? Okay, entertain a motion to accept that.
I'll make the motion.
Sarah made the motion. Rachel? Josh?
Aye.
Devin?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Okay, recognition of visitors.
They are spotlight, and there's nobody online.
Yeah. Okay. All right, do we need to reprioritize anything?
No, I just want to acknowledge that Kelly couldn't be here. She's got family emergency that she's contending with, so her staff is here to represent. So I'm just gonna say, Richford, I'm gonna give you a little kickoff. Richford Elementary School has been doing some really strategic work to engage preschool and kindergarten families early to try to really build a partnership as families and students are entering their school experience. So this is work that I know that Kelly is very proud of, and every time I meet with Kelly, we talk about, you know, what it is for the month that you're focusing on with your pre-K Family Fridays. So I look forward to hearing about your presentation. So if you could introduce yourself to the board, that would be great.
I'm Melanie Gross. I'm the Family Engagement Coordinator here, and I'm part of the early ed team that is working on the pre-KK Family Fridays.
And I'm Alicia Lawyer, and I am a pre-K teacher here at Richford, and I also oversee our program as the early ed on-site director here as well.
So this kind of sprang from from as Lynn had said, Kelly felt very passionately about engaging families at a really early level. We feel like pre-K and K is a place that we have good parent engagement, and we wanted to build on that. We have the most time with them in our building, so we wanted to form the relationships early. So this was an idea we met several times as a team, kind of strategizing about some different ways that we could engage families. We did some welcome visits at the beginning of the year for our newest families, so we went out into the community and met them at their homes. And the pre-KK Family Friday was born from those meetings. So I'm going to let Alicia kind of talk about some of the themes and why we chose some of the themes.
So if you'll skip to the next one, Courtney. This is a few pictures before we get into themes. We kind of included some of the pictures from our experiences so that you guys can kind of gauge just the excitement, not only from our students, but from the families that were engaged in the experience with us. So this is from the first couple months. We did a family breakfast at the beginning of the school year. And then our first couple of months were like introductions to school. So if you'll skip one more, Courtney, for me. This is the full calendar. We have done a Family Friday every month so far. We have 2 more left for the remainder of our school year. These themes were created as a team, as a pre-K team. We wanted to provide opportunities for our families that had opportunities for them to learn what school was about or what we had to offer, as well as like what was here in the community. We visited the fire station as a pre-KK team to provide the kids with opportunities there, as well as opportunities within our school with different people in our school. So just really building those pieces of what we had to offer for our students at the foundational level.
Here's another example of our next couple of months. We did do a half-year calendar for families so that they could plan for that. We moved the times around. We kept the dates the same, but we did move the times from a morning time to an afternoon time, often to try to capture the most participation. We invited in some providers from outside our community, so we had Notch Dental came, Marie Howard came and did a dental presentation. We also, as Alicia said, visited the fire station.
Yeah.
We had Monarch Maples come, the nurse care coordinator came and did a healthy habits session.
With our nurse here at school. You would speak to it.
Yeah, and so we started out, we weren't sure how much participation we would get. So we built it hoping they would come. And they did. So we had anywhere from 18 to 35 adult participants come to the events. 87% of the total student population had at least a person represent them over the course of August to now March. We're just getting ready for our next one in April. And the average growth rate has been about 30%. We started at about 20 and we've built to about 28. So our average participation level is about 28 adults each time we do a Family Friday. So that has grown. We had a lot of repeat families, but we've had 87% of our total student body at least once represented. So that's been a really good number for us, and we're excited about the growth rate.
Here's a couple more with our bus trip to the fire station, breakfast with a firefighter, and then a couple other opportunities we had. If you'll switch again. So as Lynn had talked about, Kelly was really passionate about this. That's one thing that when we started last year, at the end of last year, talking about what could we do, what does this look like, it really started with our team, like an early ed team, which consisted of the pre-K teachers, the kinder teachers, and us really being able to create like that team of adults to be able to provide these opportunities for kids and families. We really wanted to make sure that families felt like they were heard, families felt like they were comfortable. We wanted to just bridge that gap between school and families. They are their first educators. We want to continue that support as they start school with us. And then we also really want to bridge between us and kindergarten. Sometimes that is that big, huge, like, oh my gosh, my kid is in full-time school, instead of just hanging out part-time with us in pre-K. But we really wanted families to understand that pre-K is just as important as kindergarten is, and we're hoping that we can bridge that piece from us to them, and wanting more families to be involved and build that connection and support families as they start with us in our rooms. So we're super excited. Here's another one. This was the last one we just did, which we got a lot of great feedback from. We had Mr. Sanborn do a music, kind of like if we went to music, he did an activity with the children and their families, and then they made a take-home activity at the end.
And there are often two components to our Fridays. There's a kind of a engagement piece where the presenter or the person doing is trying to engage the whole group, and then there's often either a takeaway or something that they're building with their families, be it a snack that they're creating together or a musical instrument that they can take home. And we intentionally built some take-home materials to kind of support the learning, like we did a introduction to some of the learning at RES, and we sent home some materials that they could then use as manipulatives to work on letter formation with their students at home. And that's an important part of what we do. And so we're building a 2-year program. So this is year 1. This was our pilot year. So the goal would be to build a 2-year program that we can then rotate. So then our pre-K students coming in would have year 1, and then in kindergarten they'd have year 2. So they'd get a full experience, and then we would just kind of reinvent that every year. So we would roll that into our second year. And in year 2, we're gonna meet and discuss more. We've talked a lot about what year 2 is gonna look like. We would like to determine how we can attract even more families, kind of identify what the barriers are for the families who aren't participating. We've already had conversations with a number of families, just about its work schedules, it's I run a home daycare, I can't bring all the kids, those sorts of things, and how can we engage them in what's happening? Are there ways we can connect them to at least the materials that we're giving to families so that learning can then also be translated to them? we talked a lot about resource opportunities. So in year 2, we hope to build this program even a little more robustly. So we'll continue to do the engagement in the classroom, bring the providers in, and then we're thinking that we'd like to kind of take it to the next level, where there's an opportunity for families to meet as a group that helps them to also network and make those connections. We're intending to do a survey at our final event to kind of see what kind of themes, what would families like for us to bring to them? Is there something that they could do as an adult group? Are there areas of concern that they have questions about? Can we kind of build that into our Family Fridays for those folks who want to stay beyond the Family Friday and do some, we don't want to call it parent ed, like resource building, are there resources they're not familiar with that we could bring in so that they could have an understanding, put a face on NCSS, put a face on, programming that's available to them and bring some of those resources to the folks that are already here.
And I'll kind of touch on the last part about incorporating preschool. This year was kind of like she said, a pilot for our 4-year-olds and the kindergarten students, but I would like to start stretching it a little bit more because we do have 3-year-olds that come to school. I'd like to start capturing those relationships and building those foundational pieces. Not quite in the extensive level that we do with our 4-year-olds, but still start building those foundational pieces because I also think it's really important to offer them the opportunity to come in and see what school is like, since it is their child's first opportunity in a space like this. Many times some of our students don't have daycare experiences or anything outside of the home, so I really just want that parent trust and support and relationship with them. And I think
This was a really popular one too. This was
Yeah.
our PE teacher, Mr. S, did stations in the gym. So families could engage in
some
those
physical
stations.
activity stations.
And then we did healthy snacks in the classroom
Yeah.
as an alternative.
And then our last slide is just some parent feedback. We've done surveys on the last few times that we have done Family Fridays to just see how families were feeling about it, what their thoughts were, and these are some of the feedback we got from them. So
My
They-
favorite is better than coffee.
yeah,
Yeah. That's great.
they seem to have enjoyed it, so I'm excited about that. I'm very curious for our end of the year survey to see what they think we should do next and what that looks like for them and how they've felt about this opportunity.
Yeah, and we have done simple surveys. It's just been 2 questions. How would you rate this event on a scale of 1 to 5? Feedback has been really positive. And we also identified the take-home materials, like we had them rate their ability to use those materials at home. So on a scale of 1 to 5, do you feel like this was helpful for you to understand or to access that resource? Yeah, so that's Family Fridays in a nutshell.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Good job.
I really love how there's so many layers to what you're trying to accomplish with this. It's bringing families into the community and strengthening that relationship, but it's also connecting the outside community with the school and families. And I know part of my conversation with Kelly, and you hit upon this, is by focusing on some of the things that you're focusing on, you're also helping families to understand this community and where the resources are and how to connect them, and kind of normalizing that for families. And I really appreciate all you're doing to strengthen that connection between families, schools, and communities. It's really outstanding.
And that's something we really are building here.
Yes.
So nice to be a part of it.
For sure, I agree.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Great
Can we
night.
clap? Can we clap?
Okay. Financial budget, Morgan?
So no news on the FY25 budget, year that we're currently in. You are out of your 30-day reconsideration window for FY26, so that budget is set. We are gonna have a discussion on SRO contracts. We were waiting until the budget was approved and we got through that window before I brought them to you. I shared the draft contracts as proposed by the sheriff's office by email. Our lawyers have looked over them as well. you've got your two high school principals here if they want to weigh in on that.
Are you asking us to?
I'm kind of punting it. It's
Giving
the
you an
board's decision, giving you an
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yes, no.
You would like us, yeah, sure. I would say at EFMHS that we're big fans of the SRO program and would love it to continue.
I think the community is really expected. I think that we heard that last year at the meetings, at the informational meetings, and given the fact that law enforcement is so far away and takes so long to respond, I think it's comforting for them to know that there are at least 2 officers in the area. We are fortunate here in Richford to have Border Patrol right down the street, and they are always responsive, and we're thankful for that. But I think it makes sense.
Anything from the board? Rachel, Kua, or Josh, anything on the SRO contracts?
You also have Jen on if you wanted
Oh.
Jen's feedback on that. Do you want to add anything about the SRO contract, Jen, or Nate? Either of you?
I was kind of having a little bit of a hard time hearing. Are we revisiting whether we're going to retain those or the context?
We're gonna vote on it.
I'm happy with what we're doing. It's been very helpful to have the support there. So this is going to be good.
Did you have a hard time hearing how the conversation got kicked off?
I did. I did have a hard time hearing the front end of that. Can you hear me okay? I'm almost there actually, but can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I had a hard time hearing
So I
how the
think what
conversation
Morgan
got
was-
kicked off.
Do you want to try again, Morgan?
Sure. So we knew these contracts were up for renewal, and based on the conversations at the board level over the winter months, we decided that we were going to wait until we got the budget passed and through the reconsideration window before I brought those back to you.
Got it. And so the ask of us now is, do we continue to retain our SRO contracts, or what's the ask right now?
Yeah, so assuming that you're in favor of continuing them, we just want to get a motion on the books to approve the 2 SRO contracts with Franklin County Sheriff's Office.
Got it. Yes. So my feedback is yes, I'm in favor of continuing them for sure.
Do you need a motion on that?
That would be great.
Okay.
Make a
Okay.
motion.
Sarah made a motion. All those in favor for the contract?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
Akua, you're an aye?
Aye. Yes. Thank you.
I'm not.
Thank you. We plan to start the asbestos remediation work at Enosburgh Elementary as soon as school is closed for the summer. We're going to do half of the building this summer with the idea of doing the other half next summer. You approved last month the abatement contract. We now have received bids for the floor installation, putting the new floor on once we get the old mastic up. And the 2 bids on this side were close. We've got Vern and I are recommending that you take a bid from a Garage Outfitters, which would be a poured floor. I've been having good luck with that in other schools for $56,232 and 30 cents. The other bid, which was slightly higher, was from Newton's, and it was for a different product. It would be a vinyl floor, but Vern's recommendation is to go with the poured.
I think we discussed that before. Any issues with that? No, I entertain a motion to accept the first bid, first contract.
Morgan, is that an epoxy-based floor?
Yes. It is
What's the maintenance of that? Do we know?
easier, which is why he's
Very
recommending it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Vern went over most of that, was it last month or the month before?
Might have been a couple months ago. Yeah.
One that MVU has, correct? Wasn't that what we were talking about? That same kind of
Yes.
flooring? Okay.
It is, Rachel. It, and Buck and Vern went and looked at it, and the I've seen pictures of, and I've talked to people there.
It's beautiful.
It has held up really well.
So assuming you're in favor, there are actually two motions I would like. The first would be a motion to direct me to negotiate a contract with Garage Outfitters.
Okay, have a motion?
Make a motion.
Sarah made a motion, Josh,
Aye.
Rachel? Akua?
Aye.
Devin?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
And then the second would be a motion to allow use of capital reserve funds for the project as needed.
Have a motion to use capital reserve funds for the project?
Make a motion.
Sarah made the motion, Rachel?
Aye.
Akua?
Aye.
Joshua? Josh?
Aye.
Devin?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
What?
Okay.
Akua left, right? Akua left.
Can hear her. It's just by magic.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. The last item on my agenda is still informational. It's just an update on the snack shack. Vern has received some bids for demolition of the building if we choose to go that route. He's actually got a meeting tomorrow night with the boosters to go over some potential floor plans for a rebuild of the building, and he's been working on lining up some contractors to bid on that once we have some specs.
Is he doing two different ones, one with the changing rooms, one without, or just one with no
I
changing room?
think that's the conversation he's having tomorrow night.
Okay.
And he's clear that the boosters are informing the process.
Yes.
Right.
That was a little confusing last time. I don't think he was clear that this board is going to approve it ultimately. So will he come back in May?
May.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
Lynn?
Okay. So, principals, please help me out. These are really fast moving targets. So my board report was correct when it was written. Let's see if it's still correct. So under personnel, we have hiring for the 25,
Oh,
20.
wait, hold on, sorry, it's not sharing.
What?
It's not sharing.
It's okay. For hiring for the 25-26 school year, I'll be looking for a motion to hire Virginia Rainville for middle school ELA teacher at Richford Middle School.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Who made the motion? Josh?
What was that again?
It's for Virginia Rainville for the middle school ELA teacher for next year.
And there was a motion for that?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm an aye.
Okay. Rachel?
Aye.
Devin?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
So we have some resignations. Amanda Collins, grade 4, teacher at Enosburgh Elementary. Emily Bouthillette, this is informational because she's funded under the SU budget. Middle school literacy intervention at Enosburgh Middle. Penelope Wade, high school English teacher at Enosburgh. So that's for the board to make a motion to approve those resignations.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Sarah made the motion. Rachel?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
Kua?
Aye.
Devin?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
Okay, this is the part I think we're good, but Jen, what I think I know about Enosburgh Elementary is that you're searching for a music teacher, an elementary classroom teacher, and maybe a pre-K para.
Yeah, I think we've advanced on the pre-K para, but the other two, we're holding interviews this week.
Okay. I thought I heard that before I left too, so that's great news. Matt, I think Enosburg Middle School, nothing yet.
It would be the literacy interventionist
Okay.
position, but we haven't posted it yet.
Okay. Enosburg High School, the principal position, we are moving on after last night's process. We have an anticipated high school English teacher and a paraeducator. At Richford Elementary.
I think we're not gonna need to fill that paraeducator position, that was for this year. And the nurse position is gonna need to be reposted,
Yep. Yes,
pending discussion.
correct.
Yeah.
But I forgot to put that on. So Richford Elementary School has a school counselor, elementary teacher, kindergarten teacher, and pre-K paraeducator. And Richford Junior Senior High School has a long-term nurse substitute teacher. I think you just hired a middle school softball coach.
And we have, her name, Joan Cheeseman is doing our
Carly
long-term
Duckett.
nurse.
Oh,
Carly Duckett then.
Yeah, but I was talking about our nurse. Our
Yes.
nurse is,
Oh.
So you're
Joan
good on
Cheeseman is doing that. And yes, Carly Duckett is the softball coach. And we, I just posted for varsity girls soccer coach for next year, varsity girls basketball for next year, varsity boys basketball for next year.
oh,
So I just posted those 3 yesterday.
okay.
Yeah.
So, Matt, I appreciate you bringing up the nurse position. I had forgotten to put that on there. So, we'll have an opening at Enosburg High School. And I brought this to boards last year. I explained to boards what it says in the ed quality standards in terms of the ratios, how many nurses per how many students. We had conversations last year. We have made some shifts this year. I think that what I was trying to say last year is maybe a little clearer given what's happening with the governance changes at the state level and the discussions that are happening through the legislature. We have made some decisions to not refill positions because we're trying to be thoughtful about how we can be strategic now so that as we make shifts because of class sizes, that we won't have to let people go, that we can start to make moves that way now. I have not gotten to the place where I'm recommending changes to the nursing model yet, but I just think the board needs to be really aware that we're way over ratio wise on what's in the ed quality standards. And, I think it's something, if we're going to make that shift, we should be really thoughtful and strategic and have conversations with the principals. And this is another of the opportunities where you could make a step towards something if you chose by telling me, no, don't fill that, and redistribute the nurses based on school size. I'm not recommending that you do that yet. I just need direction from you because I do think in the end there are lots of positions that we're going to end up talking about, and attrition is one of those things that I look at as an opportunity to help us get there, but the reality is we don't know where they're going to land in terms of we'll talk about this kind of next with how they're funding schools and all of that. So I need direction. Do I
Anything on
fill the position? Do I not?
You wanna hold on the position or do you wanna fund the position? Any discussion? Any feelings on that? I sort of
Lynn,
pick it
what
up.
do you mind just clarifying the ratios? I remember this conversation vaguely back when we first discussed it, but I was just curious what the ratio is for the standards for a school nurse.
We have been kind of buried in looking at class sizes and ratios and things like that, but from my memory, I think in the ed quality standards, it's 1 to 500. Does that sound right to principals?
That sounds like what I remember, yeah.
Beth, does that sound right to you? 1 to 500?
I think so. It's either, 400 was it, 450 was the number, but about that.
I think 450 is
I
the.
thought it was 500, yeah.
Yeah.
5 or 4, I think 5.
There's
And
just
if
so
we
many
could
numbers
shift
in our heads
from
right
the
now.
model
using Nowlin, would the idea be it would be one school nurse for the elementary and the high school, and then like an LPN or an LNA underneath?
I'm not at the point where I would recommend a model, but I'm right now just at the place where I know every time we have an opening, I think we should be thoughtful about what's coming. But I'm not saying that I'm far enough down the process to say I think you have to do this now with nurses. But you have to acknowledge that at some point you may have a conversation where you're going to have to consider, are we staffed appropriately for all positions, right? And nurses
And
are
if we-
one.
If we didn't post this position, I'm just curious, the high school nurse, is she done at the end of this year?
Yes.
Okay, so it would be the elementary school nurse realistically
Well-
covering the high school, or?
Not necessarily. You have a nurse, you have multiple schools. So you have a nurse here at Richford Elementary, you have a nurse at Richford High School, and you have a nurse at Enosburgh Elementary. So it could be some combination of all of that. I don't know. I'd have to be thoughtful and strategic about. I'd work with principals to look at need, and I would look at school size and try to be really strategic about that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like to think about it and kick it down the road for another month.
Yeah. Oh, another month?
Yeah.
So not advertise at all?
I feel like we should fill it myself.
'Cause you're not in a place where you have to do it yet.
Right.
Like
No, we're not right.
your budget wise, you're okay, and you just need to be cognizant every time we make a decision like this. And I'm
Well, I
certainly
think we
not.
maybe need another month to think about it, take another look at it.
Okay.
We have several positions that we are not filling, that we're letting go due to attrition, because we've looked closely at the numbers, and we've had really awesome ratios for a while, but we don't, at the middle high school in particular, have found we don't need to fill all of the positions in order to provide all of the, I would say almost all. We may do some rotations of classes over a 2-year course, but we can. So we're in a really good shape in terms of budget wise and spending. I mean, we're going to be saving a bunch of positions. I would lean more towards what Devin said, to post the position, so that because if we're going to fill it, it'd be great if we could get started on that. One of the challenges last time was we didn't fill it till July, and we didn't have a big candidate pool.
The truth is, you might not get somebody because what we pay a nurse and what a nurse can earn in a hospital is significantly different.
Correct.
And so you have to, I mean, we posted early and we didn't, we found somebody, but we didn't have a large pool either.
Yeah.
And I think that
That's my
some
concern.
schools have been, left the positions empty looking.
Right. And we might have to be reactive in that way if we posted and then didn't fill it. And I just want to be clear, I think that in this one, it's okay if we want to wait and make decisions about the model down the road. E. Morgan did just check ed quality standards, and it is 1 to 500. But I would want to know, if I'm happy to bring it back next month. There are some benefits to being able to post sooner. But if you want me to bring it back next month, is there something that you want me to bring back to help you make the decision? Or do you think that the board could make the decision this month?
Personally, I'm kind of happy with the context that was shared. I think it makes sense, to maybe move forward. You don't know how long it's going to take to find somebody if we post now. And that gives us still a little bit of buffer time to, if we just post, right, we'll start to see what the candidate pool looks like and gives us some time for you to make the decision a little bit later. That's kind of kicking the can down the road too.
And I think the longer it's posted, the more the word's gonna get out there and we need that because of exactly what Beth said, we don't pay a lot.
If it is posted, though, we have candidates we have to select, right? Or do we-
No.
Okay. All right, so I'm here, go ahead and post it, the majority.
Do you need a motion to do
No.
that or?
No,
Okay.
no, just fair motion.
I just want to say this conversation has nothing to do with the value I place on school nurses. They are a tremendously integral part of our school community. This has everything to do with the shifts that are happening in our education system, and there are going to be hard decisions that you as a board are, and myself as an administrator are going to have to make, principals as well, over time. And they're already doing it. They're already looking at class sizes, and they're making decisions about how are we sharing resources, and these two schools have done a fabulous job, the two high schools, of looking at, we could still offer this, but this is how we could, you know, have staff help us in a really flexible way, or do this differently with students, and rotate these classes by semester. And so they're getting really creative in that they have built the foundation. We have together built that foundation over the years to be able to have this flexibility. So they're already making those hard decisions, and there are other things that are in the ed quality standards, and there are other things that are in the funding model that will keep all of us, not just here, but across the state, talking about ratios for some time to come. Okay, where am I?
Staff extensions.
Okay. So we have, the contracts went out on April 1st. Staff members had to return their, as per the contract, return on April 15th. Staff members have, many staff members have asked for an extension. They have until May 1st to return their contracts. We're still in negotiation, which is something that Morgan and I will be giving an update on. And we're seeing a larger number of staff members requesting the extension related to not being done with the negotiation process. So we should know by the time we meet again, we'll know where we are. This is just pushing it down a little further. We're not able to know now until early May what positions we're going to be filling, but I will just acknowledge that my intention is to move very quickly. So at the close of business on May 1st, whatever contracts we don't have back will be posted. So I just want to be clear about that these principals are going to be in a very fast process in terms of searches and filling positions from there forward. So I don't have anything for you. Oh wait, I have an administrator contract. I would like to go into executive, but if we could save that until the end, that'd be great. I don't have anything for you under student except the name that picture game that we like to play every month. I think that's the slide, Courtney.
It's not moving. Hold on, I'm trying.
It's a slow moving slideshow today.
I know.
All right, which principal wants to go first?
I'll go first. I was tempted to pick a picture that wasn't mine and make up a story, but mine's in the center top. That's our choral director, AJ Banich, and a number of our choral students. Looks like male section. Is this at the concert at the church yesterday?
It's a screenshot of a video, so I'm going to say
Okay,
yes.
so yesterday there's a church in Burlington that hosts a choral concert. If I knew it was coming, I could Google which church and what it was, but it's not actually the church chorus. They perform in a church, and it's a pretty cool opportunity that our students were at, and just AJ's and our students were asked to perform one song on their own, which I think is what's happening here, and then they partnered with the chorus to perform one other song. It's a chorus that AJ is a member of, and then they were invited to stay for the rest of the concert as well and see it for free. So they had a good time. And that was I say yesterday, but it's already Tuesday, so that was Sunday, Sunday afternoon.
I'll go with Trevor Lawrence, not the quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars, but our Trevor Lawrence and Oliver Corwell. They came in third in the Heritage Automotive competition in Burlington. So there was 10 schools competing, so they did very well and got $500 for it.
And I announced it, and neither of them was in the building at the time. It's everybody else, the EFHS should know.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So Nate, they also got some pretty cool, personally, those kids got some pretty cool
Yeah.
stuff
Yes,
from
tool.
being a part of that.
Yep.
Do
I
you
don't
remember the
exactly know.
value of the toolkits that
I
they
don't,
got?
because
It was a lot.
we just had kids go to Building Brighter Futures, and they won a bunch of, Roger Clark just won like $400 worth of tools and tool belts, so we've had a good couple weeks.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You wanna go, Jen?
Yeah, I believe mine's Enosburgh, right, Courtney? I'm having a hard time seeing, but I can see a couple of my kiddos in there, and I believe it was our Walking Wednesday.
And the bottom right is a group of our students went to Vermont Public Radio and St. Albans Messenger. And Liz Erickson said it was like one of the best field trips she's ever been on. The kids asked great questions, and both of the sites were really provided a great educational opportunity for the students.
Courtney, can you take the Richford Elementary one?
The picture on the left is fourth graders, and they went out in the community they're starting to, what I know from Facebook, is they're starting to draw a map of all the places in Richford, and that's at the playground on Intervale Ave.
Yeah, they did a walking field trip last Friday because they came to the high school and some of the students talked to us, yeah.
Do you wanna say anything about that, Mark?
They came to my place too. It was really nice to see them.
Yeah, they came to Health Center too.
Did they?
Yeah.
I heard they asked you really good questions, right?
Yeah, they did a really fantastic job. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Very nice.
And by the way, I heard some great feedback about, and Jen, I might butcher this, but I believe he was a Tampa Bay Buccaneer that was on
Oh, yeah.
campus. Some of the kids were really excited about that too.
He's his first name's Zion, and he is a friend. He married a friend of Heather Hawkins, the assistant principal at our middle school, and he was in town, and she brought him to the school, so they had a chance to meet somebody famous, and they were pretty thrilled.
Yeah, that was cool too.
Yeah. And he's a super nice guy, great with the kids, gave as many photos and autographs as they wanted, so, and came 2 different days, because he missed some kids the first day, so it's pretty nice thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Okay, so we're gonna move into legislative update, and Morgan and I are going to go back and forth with this one. So I think actually it might make sense, Courtney, if you go to the next slide. Do you want to start this, Morgan, or do you want me to?
You can start.
Okay. So I can't see the visual because I forgot my copy. Oh, I think I can get to the slide. My eyes are a little too old to read that from here.
I can try to zoom in on this
If you
one.
could zoom in, that would be great, but I have it on my computer.
This is him, Zion.
So I want to talk about what's been happening in the legislature, and I'm going to bring you this every month until we get through this process. So most people are talking about Governor Scott's plan. That's the one that you have heard of the most likely, the big 5-district consolidation, right? So there was a bill that was introduced, it started in the House Education Committee, and that bill was taken up by House Education, and they made revisions to that bill. So it was you call it a strike all bill, and so now the Governor Scott's plan has not moved through the way it was created. Now it's the House bill. They both have the same number, but we're going to just talk about the differences. So what has moved, right now it's in House Ways and Means, or did it move out?
Moved out. It's going to the floor on Thursday, I believe.
Okay. So it's moved from House Ed, it went to House Ways and Means, I think, middle of last week.
Yeah.
Last week, and then now it's going out to the full House. And then the House will make a decision on whether or not they support that bill, and then they'll move it over to the Senate. Will it start in Senate Ed? Is that where it goes?
That will be up to the Senate, but it's likely to go to Senate Ed first.
Okay. So what this does is, this visual that I'm sharing with you, is that it's a representation that both what the governor proposed originally and what the House has moved forward, there's agreement that there needs to be increased scale, larger districts, and fuller schools. alignment of graduation requirements, school calendars, and data systems across Vermont. In Governor Scott's bill, he consolidated into those 5 big districts. In the House bill, the intention in that bill is to empower a team of Vermont education experts to propose new district lines by 2026. So they'll have until January 1 to take their time and be really thoughtful and strategic. In Governor Scott's bill, they made some assumptions. K through 3rd grade would have 15 students per class. 4th through 12th would have 25 students per class. In the House side, establishes class size minimum standards with important exceptions. So that is really like 12 kindergartners, 15 students in K through 3, and for 4 through 8, I believe that's 18. I forgot that the numbers weren't on this when I put that in there.
So also some of the numbers have changed since that slide was written. Kindergarten is 12, 1 through 4 is 15, 5 through 12, and required content areas are 18. There's some provision for certain classes to ignore the minimum. Thinking like
CTE classes.
CTE, probably
AP.
lab heavy science classes, things like that.
Like a home ec
Yeah.
kitchen, I think.
Right.
AP classes, driver's ed.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think
Driver's
it's.
ed is on
I don't think it's automatically all AP classes. It's
Oh.
not really.
That's what I
But I
mean.
got.
I read that too.
So,
I read AP too.
did you read all?
It just
It
said
might
AP
have
classes.
changed.
I think it's an example.
And I think things with specific tools, like I think if you
Right.
run our wood shop, you wouldn't need 18 kids.
Correct.
Maybe kitchens.
Yeah, kitchen.
And so assuming that there's some evidence-based or national standard that this is based off of, you know, or what is that?
Yes.
What is that?
So the Vermont Superintendents Association has proposed many of these recommendations that ended up in the House bill, and there I can send you links to where the research was. It was really based on modeling around ideal school sizes to get to efficiency. So it was looking at the scale component of the research. And then there are some class size components too. And I can send that to you if you want.
That'd be great, yeah, thank you.
So the funding formula on the governor's side is immediate implementation of a foundation formula dependent on deep school budget cuts. Because the transition to the funding formula would happen before you could move to scale, so the only way to make that work would be to see significant cuts across many of the schools. In the House version, it starts with the transition to a weighted foundation formula structure. Do you want to add on to that piece?
Sure. And a lot of things have changed on Monday that you
Okay.
may not know about. So the new funding formula would go live July 1 of 2029, which is now when they're proposing the new districts go live. So that was pushed off from what we thought we knew last week. The way that it works would be districts would receive a flat dollar amount per weighted kid. So you would get, a weight for all your long-term ADM. There's extra weight for kids in poverty, English language learners, SLIFE, which I don't know what that stands for, but it's I think it's
Students
newly
with limited or interrupted formal education.
okay.
I think there was
Nice.
a New American connection.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know it from Winooski. Do I get a
Yes.
chocolate?
I think it's the first year that they're in the country, Matt. Does that make sense to you? Or part of the first year?
I think it's a general category. I'm not sure if it's just the first year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then also special ed. So students with identified special ed needs would get greater weights.
Thank you.
There are no weights for grade levels, which is different from what we currently have. There will also be grants for districts that have a certain population sparsity, and grants for districts that have schools that are small by necessity. Small by necessity hasn't been defined yet. That's something that they will work on over the next few years. districts would be allowed to spend more than that base amount by going to a vote of the public. In the current draft, you could only spend up to 10% more than the allocation you get. And there's a pretty stiff penalty in terms of your tax rate for any spending over that amount. One of the major differences is while the pain to raise more than that foundation amount would be equal no matter what district is doing it, the money is only raised in your district. So unlike the system we have now where if a district somewhere in the state spends a whole bunch of money per kid, we all help pay for that. That's now been kind of broken off so that communities that are spending at the foundation formula amount won't feel that anymore. Changing in how we give people a break based on their income. Currently we have a credit, which is an amount of money based on the prior year, which you get to use for your next year's tax bill. They're changing that to an exemption, which they think will be fair and which will happen in the same year. They're then studying changing that funding formula in about 2030 or later to what's called an evidence-based model. The current model is a current spending model. It's the dollar amount is based on what we're spending in the state now. An evidence-based model is based on what we could be spending in an ideal state. And the ideal state is districts of 4,000 kids, schools of 400 kids, basically.
And is that I don't know which side of what you just described was the Tammy Colby presentation around.
Tammy Colby is the one that we're going to go to first.
And then
the evidence-based model. Once districts are able to get to some sort of scale, we could move to that in the future.
So this is a perfect example of how fast this is moving because my update was Friday. I was at trustees on Friday and several of these are changes from my last update. I was unavailable yesterday for any of this. So I want you to just keep going, roll right through this.
Okay. There is an intention to create a school construction fund. There's a lot of language around how the AOE will implement that, what their advisory board will look like, and the source of funding that has been identified is related to that over foundation formula spending. So if a district chooses to spend 5% more than they're getting from the state, they're actually also going to be raising money locally that's going to then go and fund that construction fund, and that'll be accessible to any district in the state. There's some changes that are still in there, moving to a statewide school calendar in 2029. Some studies around how to move us to a statewide financial system and student information system. There are some restrictions that would happen right away to the districts that, to the schools that districts like NMV can pay tuition to. All the kids who are currently in school would be grandfathered, but we'll be digging into that certainly on the other side to look at what schools may no longer be eligible to receive public tuition dollars. For you all, that will be a benefit because it's likely to mean that more kids are coming to you, or at least the education fund as a whole isn't sending money out of state or out of country. It moves some rulemaking from the State Board of Ed to the Agency of Education, but nowhere near the scale that the governor had proposed in his plan. I think that those are the highlights. The Commission on the Future of Public Education is the committee that would be redrawing those maps. Those district maps are due December 1st of this year. And again, those would go live in 2029. So presumably next year, the legislature would pick one or meld a couple of them together and move forward on
So I think this will probably be the last time we talk about the governor's plan, because he introduced something that is not moving forward in its current, or in its proposed format. I would say that some of the difference is, Morgan talked about. I think that the timeline is a little different. It's still, make no mistake, it's still an aggressive timeline to be able to accomplish this level of shift, at the state level. I think that the power piece around the state board is centralizing a lot of things under the agency was part of the governor's plan, and is not part of what the House is moving forward. And there's some differences to tuition. There was no discussion about school construction in the governor's plan, and in terms of the restructuring the district maps, that was just decided for everybody in a really top-down approach that didn't involve anyone in the decision making for that. So I think from here forward, we'll just talk about the one bill that's moving through. Any questions on that?
Is there any detail provided on this piece, the alignment of graduation requirements?
Not yet.
No.
No, that's something that we've talked about in terms of we have a lot of questions about how they would get to that. And one of the things that we are pushing for is what's missing in Vermont. We're making all of these changes, but there's no clear vision for public education in Vermont. In order to decide upon what we're aiming towards, or what we're going to do, we really should know what we're aiming towards. So what we're hopeful is that there'll be a really thoughtful process about creating a vision for Vermont's graduates, and then creating graduation expectations that match that. So it's certainly something we'll advocate for.
And the little that is in the bill around that, is that the decision-making is gonna lie with the State Board of Education, not the AOE. And the deadline is to adopt proficiency-based graduation requirements by July of 2027 for the 27-28 school year for the graduating class of 2031.
Court, can you flip to the next slide? So we can send you these. This is, today was the first day I saw this House transformation timeline. So you could see everything really that Morgan just said laid out in detail across, what we're aiming towards in the end. So if you have questions between now and the next time we meet, if you see something and you have a wonder, don't hesitate to reach out to Morgan or I. We are both following this very closely. He's definitely following it more closely than I am, but we're happy to talk in between board meetings, because a lot changes, as you could see, in a day, not to mention a month. Okay, and I did not pull up this negotiation update.
I can find it. See who gets to it first.
Okay, I got to support staff notes first. Does that mean I get to do those?
You can do that. I'll go get the other one.
All right, so I'm going to give you an update on support staff negotiations. We have had 3 really productive meetings with our support staff union. In terms of new money, in the first round, the union proposed a 2-year contract worth 11.7% in year 1 and 7.2% in year 2. The board proposed a 3-year contract worth 2.9%, 2.0%, and 1.9% each year. In the second round, the union reduced their proposal to 11.3% and 7.2%, and the board increased theirs to 3.8%, 3.0%, and 3.0% over 3 years. In the third round, the union proposed 9.1% and 6.5%. The board countered with 5, 4.3, and 4.1. The union then recountered with 7.8, 0.8, and 5.5%. In terms of language, the union and the board have tentative agreements with over half of the articles in the collective bargaining agreement. The major remaining points of discussion, other than money, are related to the number of leave days and the micro-credentialing language. We'll meet again next week on April 14th with our support staff. Are there any questions or comments on the support staff piece?
So we've met with the teachers 3 times as well. The board's first proposal was for 2 years, giving step in year 1 and adding to the base in both years for new money of 3.1% in year 1 and 2.2% in year 2. The union's first proposal was for 2 years. It included increased base, changes to the amounts for steps and columns on the grid, the addition of a master's 45 column, additional column movements for nurses and guidance counselors, and additional steps for a group of longstanding teachers. The new money under their proposal just for those changes on the grid was at least 13.4% in year 1 and 8.8% in year 2. And the reason I say it's at least, it's because we don't know how many teachers would be moving to the M45 column because we don't track that. And we don't really know how many teachers would be moving those extra steps, although I think we're probably pretty close on that. In the second meeting, the board increased their offer to 3.1 and 3.3% new money over 2 years. At that meeting, the union did not put forward a revised money offer. At our third meeting, the union put forward a new money proposal. At first, it appeared that the salary was actually an increase over their first proposal. We had a lot of back and forth that evening and the next morning, and we kind of figured out what the ask was. And it appears that would be at least 12.1% in year 1 and 7.3% in year 2 of new grid money. And again, we don't know. They still had the M45 column, so it would likely be higher than that. In terms of the differences in the language proposals, the board had asked initially for an additional workday. The union proposal currently includes restrictions to principals' ability to reassign teachers, a lot of new language around following OSHA requirements, longer time to return contracts once they're offered, taking 2 professional development days away and changing that to teacher-controlled non-student days, shortening the workday from 8 hours to 7.5 hours, additional payment for professional responsibilities. An example of that would be parent meetings, which currently are part of their contracted time. Longer lunch periods, additional compensation for time spent out of school on work, and then higher payments for buyback of days and retirement pay. And so all of those things have a dollar amount that you could put to them, but it's hard to come up with what that dollar amount would actually be and put it in a percent. And the next meeting with the teachers is scheduled for April 15th, the day after we meet with the support staff.
Any questions or comments? Okay. I have an other that I added in there. This other is going to require you to have something to write with. You could do it on your computer, or if you want a piece of paper, I'm happy to send a piece of paper. Could be a note on your phone. This is for principals too. Yeah.
Is this the same other, or is it a different other?
So, guess what is happening in our schools right now?
Cognitive testing.
It's VTCAP cognitive testing time. So we are going to take a look at some sample questions and see the kind of questions our students are experiencing on these assessments. I'm going to ask you to actually participate in some of these questions. I want to make this safe for everyone. You don't have to share your thinking with anybody, but I would like you to look at it and I would like you to try what the problem is that I'm going to show you. And then we're going to play a little game. And I'm not going to ask you to share your thinking, but I'm asking you to take a guess at what grade level the problem is from. So are you ready for your first problem? Or question, I should say. All right, Courtney. So I know it's a little difficult to see. Do people need me to read that, or can everybody see it?
I think you should probably read
Yeah,
it.
you have to read
Okay,
it.
this grid shows one of Clorinda's bedroom walls. And the number's 9 feet across the top, 10 feet on the left, and then there's a section that says 2 feet on the right and 8 feet on the right. The top of the wall is shaded. The rest of the wall is unshaded. Which expression can be used to find the total area of the wall? Is it A, 2 times 8 plus 9? Is it B, 2 times 8 plus 10? Is it C, 9 times 2 plus 9 times 8? Or is it D, 10 times 9 plus 2 times 9? Give you a little time to think on that.
Way to make something simple hard.
Okay.
Right. 10 times 9.
First of all, I just want to say that you're doing better than the NMV board did. There had already been a cuss by the time we got to this point in the meeting. I say that in jest, but so does anybody feel super confident that they have the answer? I'm not gonna make you share it.
You have the answer, Pete. That's not
The
fair.
answer key.
I had to think about it though.
Okay. So it isn't about the answer. I can tell you the answers or ask someone to share their thinking if you want to
tell
do
us the
that.
answers. You can't not tell us.
Well, I
the answers.
didn't tell NMB, but
No.
Then I'd be cussing too.
yeah, maybe that's what it was. Somebody
Lynn, will
wanted,
you tell us if we tell you our answer?
if you would like to be brave and share your answer, I'm happy
I
to.
just think I wanna be brave and share my answer, I'm happy to tell us the answer
I
if
will.
somebody else shares their
I'm
answer.
prepared to share the answer.
I'll
All right, Nate, tell us.
First of all, can I guess the grade level, or are we waiting to do that?
We're gonna wait and do
All
that.
right. I think the answer is C, because I think the area is 10 times 9, which is a 90, and out of all those equations, the only thing that equals 90 is 9 times 8, which is 72, plus 9 times 2, which is 18, which equals 90.
Oh, that's great.
That's what I had too, Nate.
Ditto.
If you agree with Nate, give it a thumbs up. Anybody disagree?
You did a very good job of explaining your thinking.
For sure.
All right. So let's play the game part of this. I don't want to put people on the spot in the thinking part, but what grade level do you think this is? Show me with your hands. What grade level do you think this is? 7,
what's the
5,
range?
4. Grades 3 through 11.
3 through 9.
Well, if it's
for
nine,
math.
probably not.
Yeah.
Okay. You got 7, 6th grade,
7.
7th grade. Rachel, I see Jen with 4. What'd you say, Rachel?
Third.
What does Josh think?
Probably third or fourth.
Okay. This is a 3rd grade problem.
Oh,
Okay. Okay, let's go to the next one. Kathy bought 2 5/6 pounds of strawberries at a grocery store. She kept 1 1/4 pounds and gave the rest to Ricardo. How many pounds of strawberries did Kathy give to Ricardo? Is it A, 1 4 seconds? Is it B, 1 2/5? 4 halves, I should have said. Is it C, 1 1/6? Is it D, 1 7/12?
Did you confirm the answer on the last one, by the way? Did I miss that?
It is C.
Oh, see, okay.
I got it. So bring you back to when you were learning about fractions and all the different ways that you have to figure that out. I won't make you.
My math anxiety kicked in instantly as soon as I saw fractions.
Okay, so instead of I'll give you the answer in the end, but what grade level do you think this problem is? Let's see what you're.
Given the answer last time, I'm gonna guess first grade.
Jen, say. Jen, is that 4 or 5, Jen? 4. Rachel said 4. 4, 5. 4. 5, 4.
I think this is easier than the last one. So.
This is grade 5. Anybody want the answer for this one?
Is it D?
It is D.
Yeah, more.
Job.
Very confident on that one.
Okay, let's try this one. Triangle EFG is reflected across the x-axis and dilated by a scale factor of half about the origin to form triangle EFG. Which ordered pair describes the location of vertex E? Is it A, 2, 3? Is it B, -2 and -3? Is it C, 8 and 12? Is it D, -8 or -12?
It would probably help if we could see the numbers on the grid.
Your scale is across the x-axis from -8 to +8, and the y-axis at the top is a +8, and the bottom is -8.
Oh, because it's reflected. I was like, wait a minute, that's
Is there any guess on what grade level this is?
7.
6.
7, 6,
It's gonna be like 7.
7, 5, 5,
6.
6.
I think it's high school level.
I think it's 9.
It's actually grade 8. So this is grade 8. Does anybody feel confident in the answer? Would you like me to give it to you?
No, because my answer is never wrong.
I feel confident, thanks to having been in Liv Petrie's classroom. I think I, which is why I said 9th. But I think, can I guess?
Sure.
I'm gonna guess that it's B.
Do you want to say why?
Sure, because I didn't know, I never studied about this whole reflection business, but when I was in school, but I've seen kids do it, reflection is like to flip it around. And so if you would, and the x-axis is the horizontal axis, so if you flipped it, E on its own would jump to -4 and -6 instead of +6. So it would go down to the bottom. And then half that would be half of -4 is -2, and half of -6 is -3. So that's.
Is that right?
You're correct.
Am I?
I don't know if how you described that was right, but I know the answer is correct.
How do you know which one is reflected?
So
It said the
grade
x-axis.
grade 8 on that one,
Alright.
Well, I can tell
Okay.
you this is happening at least in 9th grade. So.
and it's being assessed with your 8th graders.
And in the 8th, yeah.
So I have one last problem for you. I'm gonna just own that I didn't put any literacy problems on here because most of the literacy problems I saw in the sample tests are long passages that you have to read, and I didn't want us to have to spend the time going through that with multiple questions. Here's an example from a science assessment. So we won't spend a lot of time on this one, but I'll just read this part. A student learns that one goal of space exploration is to launch rockets that can safely return to Earth and be reused. This involves careful calculations of the gravitational force between Earth and the rocket. The student learns that the gravitational force between two objects depends on the relationships and variables shown in the table. And there's a gravitational force equation, F you can read that. I'm not gonna try to read all of those pieces in the table. On the right hand side, it says the student uses the 3 models to show how changes in mass and distance affect the gravitational force between a rocket and Earth. The table shows the masses and distances of objects in the model, and you can see that each model has a different image. So then on the next page, just an example of the questions. The question has 2 parts. Be sure to answer both parts of the question. Part A, which description of the gravitational force in the models is supported by the equation? A, the gravitational force between the objects in model 2 is 1/5 the gravitational force between the objects in model 1. B, the gravitational force between the objects in model 2 is 1/2 the gravitational force between the objects in model 1. C, the gravitational force between the objects in model 2 is twice the gravitational force between the objects in model 1. We won't go all the way through this because you can't see the visual on the same page as this. But you get an idea of the complexity of this problem. Can someone remind us the grade levels of the science assessment?
4, 8, and 11.
Okay. Anybody have a guess what grade this would be?
8.
I'm gonna go 8.
Good Lord, I hope it's 11.
I think it's 8 though.
You do?
I think it's 8.
It's actually 11th.
Okay.
So I hope you enjoyed our VTCAT practice assessment. I did this purposefully, one, because I think there is a narrative about standardized assessments, and there's a narrative about student performance on our standardized assessment. And I think that there's not common understanding about what our students are actually being assessed on. It's been a long time since I was in 3rd grade, but I can assure you that, you know, I'll own my age, I'm 53. It was 3rd grade a very long time ago. I was not doing that kind of math in 3rd grade. That was not what we were being assessed on.
And I
in
say
3rd
that
grade.
all the time, like, people, they never used to judge schools based upon your standardized test scores, right? And the number one indicator is the socioeconomic status of your parents. And so if you live in a high poverty community, it's gonna take a while to get students where they need to be. And then they read that, I have an 8th grader who can fix anything you give him. We had a possession arrow broken at a playoff game, and I kept saying to them, "Can you give it to me? He can fix it. I know he can fix it." And like I had college graduates there, and they were all looking at me. So finally, they all couldn't fix it, and I bring it out to my 8th grader, and I said, "Can you fix this?" And they said they were picking on me. They said, "You got 7 minutes." He's got 7 minutes, Beth. At 10 minutes in, I brought the possession arrow fixed. He knew immediately. This kid goes and picks up kids in the morning who had trouble getting to school. And, you know, he's just a great kid. He's so smart. He can fix anything. And he looked at me, he looked at that test and he goes, "That test made me mad. I just guessed." And so it isn't an indicator of what so many of our kids can do. I stopped listening to you reading that science question, and I think so many of the kids just give up because it means nothing to them.
I think the assessment, there's still value in the assessment.
Right.
And I don't want to discount that we're going to continue to work towards getting our students to proficiency. That's not wrong. The starting line that many kids have is very different compared to some of the kids, the starting line that they come to us with when they enter our schools, and we're working really hard to get them to that proficiency level. But my point in bringing this to all of you is that our kids are doing incredibly hard work, and I'm really frustrated as the superintendent when I hear people say disparaging things about our students, and it angers me because our students are amazing, and some of the things that they're doing and some of the things that they're contributing to the world around us, and the things that I know they're going to contribute into the world in the future. I'm proud of them, and I know our principals are proud of them, and I offer this to you as board members, and I offer this to the community who might be watching to give you maybe another narrative about how our students are doing in the world. And I think that we could show you all kinds of ways where they're really remarkable and really, really successful, and we'll keep working on this way, but this is not the only way that we measure success. So I hope you had fun with guessing the
We did.
the grade level.
We didn't enjoy
You didn't
it.
have fun
Sorry.
doing it. I know. Okay, that is all I have except for the executive mark.
Okay. All right, moving on to the principals. Kelly's not here, so Beth.
I just made a mistake in mine in the location. So the one-act plays are at the town hall, and the spring concert is, I wrote them in the wrong places. So the spring concert is tomorrow in the gym at 6 o'clock. And the one-act plays are at 7 o'clock at the town hall next week.
All right, Jen?
It was all informational, and I was just going to say that we had gotten our testing started, and so far we've gone really smoothly.
Hey, Matt, I know you got one action. item.
Yep, one action item, as I like to think of it, the circus is coming to town in the parking lot outside the middle school.
Literally.
Literally. So, you just need the annual approval. Often we do site stuff nowadays without this level of approval, but I think because part of it's tradition, but part of it is the complexity and liability and all that kind of stuff.
Same verbiage as last year.
I do believe. Yes, that's a yes.
You need a motion
It
for
looked
that.
the same to
Yeah.
me.
You need a motion
Yeah.
for that. I have a motion to approve the Lions Club for June area on school grounds.
I'll make a motion.
Sarah made a motion. Rachel?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
Devin?
Aye.
Cool.
Aye.
I'm an aye. Nate?
All informational, the only thing I'd point out is just the awesome comment Callie Goss gave our teachers and the board about how she really enjoyed coming to our space and seeing the learning and whatnot, so that was a good props for her. We appreciated it.
Right, then go to executive if there's nothing else.
I would love to say goodnight to our principals and let them get out of
Yeah,
here.
absolutely.
Have a
Thank you,
wonderful
guys.
night, everybody.
Thank you, Jim.
I think we're good.
All set? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Devin made the motion. Rachel?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
Cool.
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
Who made the motions?
No motions.
No, to adjourn.
I did.
Thank you.
Hey, Courtney.
Yes?
That, my screen, it showed that it just started recording. It didn't catch that last.
That's
It
okay.
won't-
Northwest
it
Docs.
matters.
No, she was recording. As long as one of us was recording, they can get it.
Okay, just wanted to double check.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know what was. It took forever to start recording again. I don't know why.
Did we adjourn?
Yes.
I didn't even hear that.